Sir, please give me my own inheritance and let me enjoy it. I have a rich father, and yet I am spending like a 9 to 5er. Is it when I am old and graying that I will enjoy it? Besides, do you know if this depressing life I live will make me die before you? Let's take it all back to the beginning. Long ago, before you and I were born, there lived a man named Emmanuel. Pa Emmanuel, as he was fondly called, was a respected man. He built his life carefully, brick by brick, partnerships and collaborations by contract. He owned the biggest bakery in town, nothing shady, nothing loud. People trusted him so much. Employees loved him and greeted him well. He did the same too, and with zero judgment. His name opened doors for people who were recommended by him and who had affiliations with him. Pa Emmanuel had two sons from his loins, raised under the same roof, fed from the same pot, and loved the same way. But the same rain does not fall on everybody the same way. Equally, the same meal doesn't satisfy everyone the same way. The first son, Michael, was steady, with a good head screwed on his shoulders. He was the type to wake up before his alarm rings, the type that preferred rules because they offered him safety. Michael was the type of child who never made his father worry. The second son, Jeremiah, was different. Jeremiah hated rules because they felt stifling. He hated having to still learn the trade of his father. He believed in being a free spirit, a rebel, allowed to explore and find his path as he pleases. This difference in behavior was noticeable and showed in how they treated their father's business they were to inherit. The bakery was a family business, the son's inheritance. Whilst Michael saw the inheritance as something you succeeded in good time, and the waiting period before the succession as a training school, Jeremiah saw it as a waste of time and a delay into the type of life he was meant to live. He disdained the training and always found opportunities to skip on work. Nights where everyone slept after a long business day, Jeremiah would lay awake on his bed, staring at his phone. He would watch videos of young people his age living the life he wanted. Big city that never sleeps, fast life, freedom. In essence, a frivolous life. Slowly, quietly, home began to feel like punishment for Jeremiah. His mind was now occupied with the lifestyle he wants and imagines. One evening, after dinner, when plates were cleared and silence returned, Jeremiah spoke. "Daddy," he said. Pa Emmanuel looked up. "Yes, my son." Jeremiah swallowed, gathering all his courage. "If you were no longer here, what would be my own share of everything you owned?" There was silence everywhere, the kind that presses on the chest and seizes your breath. Michael looked at his brother like, "Are you still sane?" Jeremiah continued, bolder. "Sir, please give me my own inheritance and let me enjoy it. I have a rich father, and yet I am spending like a 9 to 5er. Is it when I am old and graying that I will enjoy it? Besides, do you know if this depressing life I live will make me die before you?" Like every African parent, Pa Emmanuel interjected, saying aloud, "God forbid." Jeremiah ignored his father and continued, "Now they are alive, they enjoy you. Chop life before life chop you. That is my mantra." If you've watched up to this part, please leave a yellow heart and with your take on the story so far. Thank you. Now let's continue our story. Pa Emmanuel, seeing that his son's mind was made up, nodded his head once. He didn't say anything and called for his assistant to bring a paper and pen. He divided his wealth between his two sons, signed the paper, and gave Jeremiah his shares. Michael just sat down, speechless at everything going on around him. A few days later, Jeremiah packed his bags and left the life he had known and the city that gave him security. He moved to the city, and the city welcomed him like a lover. The city did not ask questions. She didn't care about your background. As long as you had money, she was good to you. Jeremiah moved into a high-rise apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows, providing skyline views. New friends appeared like magic. People who laughed loudly, hailed him, and filled the air with shouts of "Chairman, big money spender." Money flowed with each hailing, accompanied by Jeremiah's favorite mantra, "Chop life before life chop you." Jeremiah paid for drinks, paid for trips, paid for vibes, and even hype. He did so just because he could. Every night felt like proof that he made the right decision. His social media flooded with pictures of himself living the life of his dream, and his caption was always, "Chop life before life chop you." He forgot about his father and brother. He forgot about his past. To him, it was all about living his life and living in the present. He was having a good time and spending lavishly until money started whispering goodbye. Bad investments don't announce themselves immediately. They arrive smiling, wrapped in big bows and decorated in beautiful designs. Around the time his money started dwindling, the big city that never slept began sleeping. There was a food shortage as a result of closed borders, and food prices skyrocketed. Of the many farmers in the city, most were sustainable farmers, and people began ceasing their usual lifestyle. Friends stopped encouraging visits and outings because it meant spending more than usual. And their big money spender, Jeremiah, was also struggling to foot the bills. Slowly, friends disappeared. At first, there were delayed replies, then excuses came, and then silence. The city that once clapped for him now taunted him with silence and zero friendship. Jeremiah downsized, moving from his high-rise apartment to a small self-contained apartment. Feeding became a problem for him, and bills piled up. Hunger became his best buddy, and shame was his neighbor. Eventually, when it all became too much for him, he applied for a job. The job he got was to be a cleaner. The pay was decent and just enough to provide the basics for him. What he didn't know was that he only got the job because Michael wanted to see for himself if truly the applicant was Jeremiah, his brother. On Jeremiah's first day, Michael arrived early and watched through the CCTV in his office. When Jeremiah walked in wearing a cleaner's uniform, Michael froze. Life had truly chopped him. Tears filled his eyes and he wiped them away quickly. On the second day, Michael called the manager of the restaurant and gave him his gold wristwatch to put in Jeremiah's bag that was hung in the employee's room. The manager, baffled, did as he was told. By the close of day, Michael raised an alarm that he couldn't find his wristwatch, and so all employees must be searched as any of them could have slipped in to steal the watch. All the employees were searched, and the gold wristwatch was found in Jeremiah's bag. Jeremiah panicked, went on his knees, and began pleading his innocence. I didn't take it. I don't know how it got to my bag. Please, sir, I'm innocent. Michael asked for Jeremiah to be brought to the office. Jeremiah was shaking as he was led to Michael's office. In his mind, he was done for. Michael offered him a seat and he sat down. Michael asked him to raise his head up and look at him. Jeremiah was confused and scared, but he complied. So you don't remember me? Michael asked. Jeremiah shook his head and said no. Michael told him to sit and wait for him to make a call. Michael called their father to come to the restaurant. While they waited for their father, Jeremiah began begging Michael and started crying. He couldn't understand how the watch got into his bag. Michael got up and asked Jeremiah to follow him. They went back out to the restaurant that was now tidy and had a meal laid out on a table. Michael led Jeremiah to the table with the food spread. He asked him to sit down and eat. Jeremiah by now was even more confused and refused to sit down or eat. Michael insisted on him sitting down, and Jeremiah had no choice but to obey. Jeremiah hesitated, but he sat down at the edge of the chair and stared at the food he was served. As he was staring down at the food, their father finally came into the restaurant. Michael walked up to their father and pointed at Jeremiah. Father, this is your son, Jeremiah. When Jeremiah heard, he stood up immediately, feeling very guilty and apologetic. Michael, father, he whispered. Pa Emmanuel turned away from him. Michael, still standing beside his father, spoke up. Father, I know Jeremiah has made mistakes, but I think experience has taught him a lesson. He is currently working here as a cleaner. Your prideful son, who would skip on work, got humbled by life and now works as a cleaner. Father, please forgive him. He's changed now and longs for your love. Pa Emmanuel cleaned his eyes and nodded. He walked back to the table and embraced his prodigal son. His tears flowed freely. Jeremiah hugged his father, apologizing for his behavior. There was no pride, and he promised to work very hard as a cleaner. Pa Emmanuel sat down for dinner with his sons, happy they were all united again. He asked Jeremiah to move back in with him, and Jeremiah agreed. The next night, Pa Emmanuel threw a huge banquet to celebrate his son's return. He invited everyone to the party to celebrate his son who was lost but had been found. Michael came back home and saw the celebration. He felt a little uncomfortable with it and asked his father, Father, why did you throw a huge banquet for your prodigal son? Pa Emmanuel replied, Truly, it is expected you would feel uncomfortable with it. Your logic is, Jeremiah was wrong. He has apologized, we have forgiven him, and it should end there. However, I want you to know that I am not supporting his mistakes but acknowledging his repentance. I am proud of your brother. He went to the city, made mistakes, and now he is trying to rectify his mistakes. It takes a strong person to identify their mistakes, retrace their steps, and amend their ways. Like you said yesterday, life has chopped him and has given him experience. So celebrate your brother with me. Michael nodded in understanding and hugged his father. Pa Emmanuel signaled for Jeremiah to come, and he embraced both of his sons, his love shining through as always. Thank you for watching. Comment your guesses on the two stories told here. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe till I bring another story your way. Bye.